All right, yo, what's up? Andrew's back again. We're going to do another little time walking video. I did want to quickly address something that some people may not be aware of and might save you a little bit of money if you're trying to min-max your time walking gear. So in the last video, if you did watch it, if you didn't, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal, but just know that one of the best ways to maximize your time walking effectiveness is to get as many primary stat gems as possible. And the one that has no restrictions on it whatsoever is the red epic gem that comes from Cataclysm, the Queen's Garnet. And the source for this gem is a little awkward because the only way to actually get it is through the Dragon Soul raid instance. And I figured let's just go do a little primer on how to get there. So from Valdrakken, you're going to want to go to your major city, this character's Alliance. So we're going to go load into Stormwind. Once you're in Stormwind or Orgrimmar, you're going to want to locate the portal to the Caverns of Time. It's over on the left here if you're Alliance. Annoyingly, the Caverns of Time portal takes you to the top of the Caverns of Time, not the bottom. So if you're lazy, you can click on this guy and it'll give you a ride down. If you want to go a little bit faster, you can flying mount down here and do it yourself. As I just mentioned, the only source for these gems, aside from buying them on the auction house, is truly from this raid instance, which I'll go over here in just a moment. But yeah, that's the whole reason why we're just going through the steps on how to get to the Caverns of Time the easiest. Once you're down here in kind of the meat of the situation, you'll notice that the Cataclysm dungeons are over here in the Cataclysm raid. Dragon Soul is what we're interested in. And you're just going to fly around on over there and zone on in. This is what the portal looks like. I have this one set on the maximum difficulty, which is going to be raid difficulty 25 player side. I think actually you do have to set it to heroic if you want to get the highest one. Not totally sure how all that works, but and the difficulty doesn't matter for accessing the vendors, though the vendor that sells the gem that we're interested in does in fact take a currency which comes from killing bosses in here. So if you're interested in farming these things up a little bit, you'll be wanting to kill the bosses. Let's just take a quick look here on the auction house. Queen's Garnet, and you'll notice, yeah, the price of these things somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 on the US realms at the moment. So yeah, if you want to save yourself a little bit of gold, you can go ahead and farm these up on your own. But yeah, so basically every time you kill a boss in Dragon Soul, which we're going to do here real quick because you have to actually kill one to even get to the vendor, they'll drop these Motes of Darkness. And for Motes of Darkness, I don't know off the top of my head the exact currency conversion rate, but we'll bring it up here in just a moment. All right, so as you're entering the temple, your first vendor on the left here, Daznarimi, is going to sell crystalline geodes and elementium coated geodes. So you notice the crystalline geodes are sold for 1 Mote of Darkness. That's the currency that we looted off that first boss. The other elementium coated geode is bought with Essence of Corrupted Deathwing, which you can probably imagine where that comes from. I believe it actually only drops from the very last boss in this dungeon, despite the fact that the second to last and last boss are in fact Deathwing. The only difference here is that these ones are going to give you better stuff on average. It even says here on the little tooltip, right, you can crack it and loot your Shadow, Spinel, Lava Coral, or Queen's Garnet. I believe those are all the epic gems from Cataclysm. The Crystalline Geode contains a little bit wider variety of gems from Cataclysm, including lower quality ones, and a lower percentage chance of getting the epic ones, but still nonetheless. So yeah, I just opened this one up. Looks like we got an Ocean Sapphire. Again, this one's worth only 60 gold, which, yeah, pretty much everything but the Queen's Garnet aren't actually worth too much on the auction house. So yeah, I guess the advice here really is that you should check all of your characters and just have a look and see if you've got any of these currencies laying around. So for example here, my priest, who's probably done this instance the second most out of all my characters, has 20 Motes of Darkness to the Essence of Deathwing. So yeah, I don't know. I would expect to see 1 or 2 of the epic red gem from that many, just from like superficial anecdotal evidence of what I opened up on this character when I initially discovered this. This is the character that has the Cataclysm Rogue Daggers, so that's why I had so many currencies stacked up. I just never used them. And yeah, I got myself some gems stacked up. So yeah, as you can see here, I've got a Delicate Queen's Garnet just waiting in my inventory to be used on whatever fancy time-walking gear I acquire next. I'll just take a quick look here at the Wowhead page for Queen's Garnet. As you can see, it is created by, in quotes, by these two items that we just looked at. That is indeed the only source of it. It's reagent for all these different primary stat gems. It's weird that Parry and Haste are on here too. I mean, I wasn't playing too much WoW during Cataclysm, so I don't know what all the logic here was, but I did find that one somewhat interesting. A slight word of caution to any of you who may be seeing those prices on the auction house that we just witnessed and thinking this might be a good money-making opportunity. Your mileage may vary. I have found with some very brief amounts of trying to sell these that they don't really sell a whole lot. We can even, we can look at the TSM data here. If you look at region sale rate, that's really the interesting bit. And I know this number doesn't really mean a whole lot just by itself. For example, the +6 strength gem says 0.174. The way to interpret what that means is there's effectively a 17% chance that this item will sell every time you list it. And that's not a guaranteed number, of course. That's just statistically based on the data that TSM has gathered and whatever algorithm they are using to determine that number. So, a 0.17 for a 4.5K item, it's okay, I guess. The amount of time and effort you got to put into these things to get them is, I don't really know that it's totally worth it. And as you can see, there's, close to 600 of the raw material. This is across all of the US realms, I believe, since it is a trade good. I'm pretty sure the same deal with all the individual stat gems. So a word of caution if you're thinking this might be a money-making opportunity. Yeah, it very well may be. I would not expect a whole lot of volume on these things. Again, like the whole reason that they have any value whatsoever is for people who are trying to min-max their time-walking gear. And, people who are min-maxing time-walking gear, I'd say there's a pretty decent Venn diagram overlap between people interested in time-walking min-maxing and people interested in acquiring the materials for themselves, either to save money or just because, it's a good excuse to come, do a little bit of Dragon Soul farming because, hey, there's some mounts in here. I don't know off the top of my head if there are any time-walking best-in-slot pieces for any classes out of the Dragon Soul dungeon. I'm sure there are. I mean, there's some crazy loot in Cataclysm with tons of sockets. I mean, look at this. There's some male hands that have 2 sockets on them right there. That was just from the first boss. We've got sockets galore on rings and weapons, for crying out loud. So I'm sure there's certainly something in here for somebody. So there you go. You got a little overlap on your time-walking best-in-slot stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of what I wanted to talk about there. Yeah, let me know what y'all think about these time walking videos. I'm kind of I've certainly been enjoying doing it. I filmed a bit of B-roll stuff for Outlaw Rogue and Balanced Druid. I might make a little bit more of an in-depth guide on how to play it. A spoiler alert though for that one, the Balanced Druid run was a bit of a rough one. It may have bit off a little bit more than I can chew. I don't know. Maybe I'm going on a bit of a rant here at this point. So if you just came here to learn about the gem things, you can safely tune out now. But just as a quick rant before we wrap this one up, it seems to me like the tuning and the balance in different time walking dungeons across different expansions and even different dungeons within the expansions is just wildly different. I'm sure we've all experienced doing Cataclysm dungeons and time walking and just felt like, man, this just feels like so much of a chore compared to doing, I don't know, like the Burning Crusade dungeons are just an absolute joke. Yeah, we were doing, it's Wrath time walking at the moment, at the time that I'm recording this, and we were doing, not Halls of Infusion, that's another dungeon. The one up here, one of these guys, Halls of Lightning, yeah, and I mean, we wiped like 3 different times. 2 of them were definitely because I pulled too much, but the third one was also because I pulled too much, but it wasn't like an excessive amount more. It was like, oh, let's pull 2 packs instead of 1. And yeah, things just got out of hand. If you've done this dungeon, you know what I'm talking about. Like that last section before the last boss. Whew, oh boy. Anyway, that's my little rant about balance and tuning and time walking dungeons, which of course ultimately, like, it's probably a pretty low priority on Blizzard's radar at the moment. But just, you know, it seems odd that there's such a discrepancy, at least in my anecdotal experience. So, all right, that's it for me. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.